Greetings everybody, my name is Tommy the Game Master and welcome to my channel. Well, I did say a few weeks ago that I was planning to go through and review Hyperdimensional Neptunia. Well, I kind of lied about that just a little bit. The game I'm going to be reviewing today is actually Hyperdimensional Neptunia Rebirth No1. I guess it's some sort of remake or retelling of the original Neptunia game with quite a few differences. Well, whatever, I just played through a mixed bag of a JRPG and I'm here to review it. If you're wondering what got me interested in playing this, about this time last year, Game Trailers did a top 10 franchise of games that should die. Yeah, I know it's kind of ironic considering how that site is now deader than a doornail. Anyways, first on that list was this series, followed by my beloved Tales franchise. I wanted to see if this was a bad game with a bad reputation or a good game that was just simply misunderstood. Well, after playing this, I can say we got a mixed bag between a good, funny, charming game that's kind of creepy with quite a bit of tedium. I would be lying to say this was a great game, but it's far from being the worst RPG I have ever played. Alright, this game has a lot to talk about when it comes to the story. That means another video if you want to see me nitpick my thoughts on the plot. The game story itself is clever, it's funny, and I enjoyed every minute of it. Okay, almost every minute. Every time they weren't trying to cram some sort of moe fan service down my throat, I was enjoying it. Unfortunately, this fan service happens way too often. Anyways, the game's plot takes place in a world called the game industry, which each land is named after a console and has 4 console patron units known as CPU. These goddesses have been engaged in a battle known as the Console War for several years. One day, one of them, known as Purple Hearts, gets defeated and loses her spot in the celestial battlefield. A short time later, an incompetent nurse named Kampa manages to find an amnesiac klutz named Neptune with her head literally buried into the ground as if she was sticking up like a sword. Anyways, while Neptune was out, she had a dream that in order to get her memory back, she must find keys and unlock the mysterious Tome Histoire, as well as reunite the remaining goddesses to defeat an evil being named Arfor. If this sounds like the dumbest, most stupidest, moronic thing you have ever heard of, there's good reason for it. It probably is. That said, the game realizes just how stupid its plot is and is willing to run with it. Because of this, it's able to actually do some pretty decent comedy, and I enjoyed myself most of the time while playing this game. Most of the time! Oh, come on, do you have to ruin Pokemon for me? Anyways, if you want more of my thoughts, feel free to check out my story analysis video. Hyperdimensional Neptunia is a dungeon crawler to its core. Outside of this pick a stage map that lets you access the shop and guild menu, it's pretty much pick your stage and go through it. The stages that have events are the ones you have to go through in order to further the story, but you have to go back through previous stages oftentimes to collect stuff for guild missions, and there are also a few bonus dungeons that you can also unlock for extra items and EXP. The game's biggest weakness, though, comes from these dungeons. They're below average at best when it comes to the stage design, and worse, they repeat. And when I say they repeat, I don't mean they just use similar assets for backgrounds and decoration. I mean the entire dungeon to its core is reused and called another dungeon, just with slightly stronger enemies, and this happens a lot. For example, this factory dungeon here is used 3 times. 3 freaking times in story dungeons. This could possibly be the laziest dungeon design I have ever seen in a JRPG. Okay, second laziest. The good news is at least the battle system is really good. Okay, this game is a turn-based game. I know it kind of looks like an action game here, but it's actually turn-based. You are allowed to move around your characters and do combos. And as you level up, you can level up what moves your characters do for each of their combos. And each combo has 3 types of moves. Rush moves, which will fill up a special EXE meter faster. Power moves, which take more health away from the enemies, or guard attack moves, which lowers an enemy's defense, and when an enemy's defense is broken, they take a lot more damage. Also, each character has a select amount of super moves they can use in combat, and then they can also use EXE moves, which are these very long, special animated cutscenes, which do a whole lot of damage to the bosses by the time they're over. Anyways, this game does require a little bit of strategy. What do you want to do first? Build your EXE meter up so you can do special combos. Do you want to lower your opponent's defense, or do you just want to start whacking away their health? It's kind of fun and unique the way it's set up. Also, as you gain more characters, you're allowed to team them up and switch back and forth between them. The longer they're together like this, the closer they become, and you do unlock a few stat bonuses too, and a few special moves. The fact the game also has some strategy does help. And I should also mention that each of the goddesses' characters can transform into their HDD forms. This boosts their magic and their attack stats off the roof, but it does cost you a little bit on the magic gauge, so you do have to use these somewhat wisely. Personally, I only use these against bigger enemies and against boss fights, unless the story made me transform into these. Overall, it's kind of a nice little thing for the strategy. I just wish the bosses were more fun. Instead, most of them, including the last boss, unfortunately, just really depend on your level. Despite the amount of side quests and item harvesting and crafting in this game, the game really offers little to any character customization, and if you lose on a boss, the only thing you really have to do is go out and raise your level. The bosses are just larger enemies that just take forever to beat. There's nothing really fun or unique about any of these bosses. One or two of them will sometimes cancel out your ability to transform or use an item, but that's about it. They're boring, and it's such a shame. The combo system in this game could have led up to some decent boss fights, but unfortunately what you're going to find out more often than not is that the bosses just depend on your level. If you have a high level, you'll plow right through them. If your level's too low, you'll get your ass kicked. And that's just the basics when it comes to the boss. It's such a disappointment. To be fair to the game, though, it does do at least one thing right when it comes to raising level, as you can actually collect items and plans to fill dungeons with multiple powerful bad guy foes that can really boost your level. And I do admit I like the idea that I'm beating up things from other video games. There's parodies of slimes from Dragon Quest, the pipes from Super Mario Brothers, and even beating up monsters based on dating sims, and I just love that aspect of the game. Overall, I did enjoy my experience with Hyperdimensional Neptunia's gameplay, but it's not without its flaws. Those who are looking for a AAA JRPG experience is going to be disappointed with this game, especially when it comes to exploring the dungeons. Graphically, this game is about average, as the cutscenes that are not showing any fan service are done mostly in this graphical novel approach. The designs for the characters in these cutscenes are top-notch, and they're far above being stiff cutouts. As you can see, they have some depth in the way they are drawn. They are even animated to do things like breathe and not just have mere lip flaps. They look pretty good, and it slightly elevates it above what it could have been, especially since this is an extremely basic way of telling a story. As far as the actual in-dungeon and battles goes, it's just okay. Overall, these are PS3 looking sprites, and the areas, again, as I said, repeat, and there's a lot of used stuff in each of the areas. Still, the enemy sprites do have some charm. Like I said, a lot of them are parroting other video games, and I love that. The game also pulls out a few stops for these EXE animations, which take about an average time as they summon in Final Fantasy VIII. Pull out the popcorn. Overall, Hyperdimensional Neptunia Rebirth 1 is not ugly by any means, but there's really nothing special about the graphics or anything memorable in this game as far as the looks. Sound-wise, I would say the music is merely okay and nothing memorable. The good news is they did pull out the stops on the dub when it comes to the voiceover actors. Kate Higgins from Naruto, Melissa Fawn, and Wendy Lee, who both did voices in Cowboy Bebops, and several other top female voiceover artists come in and do the English dub. It makes it a really enjoyable dub, and they do have a great sense of comic timing, which is good considering how all the cutscenes are done in this graphical style.
Don't know us. Well, maybe you, Neptune, but I don't know the other two. Wait a sec.
As you can see on this channel, I do mostly budget games that are fairly old, not ancient, but fairly old that go for a cheap price. Hyperdimensional Neptunia Rebirth goes for $30 on Steam. My thought is that is way too much money for what this game offers. Considering how I think Tales of Symphonia and Tales of Zestiria are overpriced and they are way better JRPGs, I certainly cannot recommend that at this price. That said, when this game goes on sale, it goes on sale. We're talking about $20 to $25 off. I bought it on a Steam sale for what I do believe was about $5, and I did get that amount of money's worth for it. Despite its problems, I still thought I had an enjoyable experience, at least for $5. If anything I said in this review makes you want to go out and try this game, feel free to do so. Just don't expect a AAA experience, because you're not going to get it with this one. But there's a few good jokes that I did enjoy, and there are some charming moments. Definitely worth giving it a try if you can get it at the right price. Anyways, this is Tommy the Game Master signing out. But before you do, I would like you to subscribe to my channel. I do budget reviews like this on my channel. I do editorial, and I do other fun things on my channel. And I would love to have you as a member of my community.